Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on solving equations, but this time they're going to be with proportions. And as a reminder, a proportion is two fractions that are equal to each other. Again, we're going to show that mastery in class by scoring at least an 80% on the exit ticket. Hopefully you have the note sheet in front of you. If you don't, take out a blank sheet of paper and we'll get you a fresh copy tomorrow. Now, if we talk about the steps for solving equations with proportions, they are almost identical to solving multi-step equations. The only difference is the first step. The first step we want to make sure is that we cross multiply. And when we cross multiply, it's numerator times denominator of the other fraction, and numerator times denominator. If we look at our first problem, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this negative sign and I'm going to put it with the 4. That way we don't forget that it's in our problem. Now, I'm going to cross multiply here, negative 4 and x minus 1, and 7 and x plus 1. And I want you to get in the habit of either using circles to show that you're cross multiplying, or use a highlighter. That's fine too. And I need you to write out when you cross multiply what you get. So in this case, I'm going to put my constant out in front. It's negative 4, and we're multiplying, so I'm going to put it in parentheses to show that I'm going to multiply it times x minus 1. On the right-hand side, I have the constant of 7, and I'm multiplying it times x plus 1. So again, it's in parentheses. From here, now it's just a multi-step equation with variables on both sides. So this is something we've already worked on. I'm going to just start by distributing. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. On the right side, 7 times x is 7x, and 7 times 1 is positive 7. I need all my variables on one side and all my constants on the other. So I'm going to start by adding 4x on both sides. When I do that, I can bring down my 4. 7x plus 4x is 11x. And I'm going to bring down my 7. Since my variables are on the right, I want to bring my constants to the left. So I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. 4 minus 7 gives me negative 3. And I'm going to bring down my 11x. 11 is my coefficient of x, so I'm going to divide both sides by 11. Now, one thing you need to make sure you're doing, if you get a fraction like negative 3 over 11 and you're not sure if it's in reduced form, use your calculator when you're in class. Type negative 3 divided by 11 and hit the math frac button. Make sure it's in simplest form, because if it's not, it is technically incorrect. In this case it is, so we don't have to worry about it, but just get in the habit, every time you get a fraction for an answer, put it into math frac and make sure it's in simplified form. If we look at our second problem, again, we have two proportions, so we're going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply 7 and x minus 1, and I'm going to multiply 8 and x plus 1. Please, again, I cannot stress this enough, make sure you are writing out what you are doing. Don't try and do the distributing in your head. Don't try and do all the multiplication and adding in your head. Write it on paper. You'd be surprised how many less mistakes are made because you're trying to juggle too many numbers in your head. So, for the left-hand side, I have 7 being multiplied by x minus 1. And again, it's in parentheses so that we know we're multiplying. On the right-hand side, I have 8, and I have x plus 1. Now we're back down to, again, a multi-step equation with variables on both sides. So I'm going to distribute my 7 through. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. On the right side, I'm going to distribute an 8 through. 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times positive 1 is positive 8. Now I need all my variables on one side and all my constants on the other. I'm going to start by subtracting 8x on both sides. Those cancel. 7x minus 8x gives me negative 1x. I'm going to bring down the minus 7 equals positive 8. Since my variables are on the left, I'm going to bring all my constants to the right. So I'm going to add 7 on both sides. I'm going to bring down my negative 1x. 8 plus 7 gives me positive 15. Now, please don't stop here. Negative 1x, there's still a coefficient in front of that x. So we still need to make sure we're dividing both sides by negative 1. We don't want x to even have a negative sign in front of it. It needs to be 1x. So in this case, x is going to equal negative 15. And we can check ourselves by plugging that number back into the original problem. Both sets of fractions should give you the same answer. If that's the case, then your answer is correct. If it gives you different answers, your answer is incorrect. Now, keep in mind, I know we didn't do examples with it on the notes, but you can also still get no solution, and you can still get infinite solution, and you can still get 0. So don't think just because it looks different that you can't get the same answers. We still can, and we will go over those in class tomorrow. But make sure that when you go to distribute, please make sure you're writing it out so we can see all your work. Please bring your notes and any questions you have to class tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then.